state of North Carolina, and now that heavy rainfall is starting to expand out and push up into portions of Virginia and will quickly advance northward through the mid-Atlantic states and into the northeastern United States over the next 24 to 36 hours. If we look at the radar this morning, you can see those heavy rain bands extending from the east of the center of Debby off the Atlantic coast, moving counterclockwise inland across portions of North Carolina. Some of these rain bands have caused significant flash flooding. There have been tornado reports overnight early this morning and through the day today. And you can also see that rain shield expanding northward and westward towards the Blue Ridge Mountains into Virginia, into western North Carolina, upstate South Carolina, around the center of Debby. These red areas you see here are all flash flood warnings. There's flash flood warnings in effect for much of central North Carolina, portions of northeastern South Carolina, as that will be the biggest threat that we're going to continue to see for Debby through today, tonight, and into Friday and Friday night, expanding northward and eastward. You can see even farther north, there's the moisture from Debby is beginning to move up into portions of the mid-Atlantic states, the Delmarva region. And that moisture is going to continue to spread northward because Debby is finally starting to move northward. The current motion is around north-northwest at about 10 miles per hour. But now you can see that by this afternoon, we're expecting a northward turn and then a quick acceleration to the northeast. It's going to take the center of Debby quickly northeastward across the mid-Atlantic states by Friday morning, into the northeastern United States Friday night, and up into Atlantic Canada during the day on Saturday. The good news is now that Debby is weakened from a wind perspective, those winds are starting to come down. Still a tropical storm with maximum sustained winds of about 40 miles per hour, should weaken to a tropical depression later this afternoon or this evening, and then lose tropical characteristics as it accelerates northeastward. But again, the main story is going to continue to be the rainfall. This is the rainfall forecast for the next couple of days. Across portions of southeastern North Carolina, we could still see an additional 3 to 6 inches, with isolated totals getting to as high as 15 inches from the storm. But our biggest area of concern today is going to be from central North Carolina up into western Virginia, where we're expecting to see 3 to 7 inches of rain, isolated totals as high as 10 inches, which could produce locally catastrophic flooding, especially once you move into the higher topography here along the I-81 corridor, Blue Ridge Parkway, from north of Greensboro up to Roanoke and up through the Shenandoah Valley. As we move farther north, once we get up from Maryland into New York and Vermont, we're expecting to see widespread rainfall totals of 2 to 4 inches, with isolated totals as high as 6 inches, especially as we go from tonight into during the day on Friday, and that could also cause some considerable flooding impacts. Just to take a quick look at the flood watches and warnings that are in effect, everywhere you see in dark green is under a flood watch. Much of eastern South Carolina, the eastern two-thirds of North Carolina and Virginia, up along the Shenandoah Valley through western Maryland, eastern West Virginia, Pennsylvania, New York, and on up into northern New England. So everybody in those flood watch areas needs to be prepared to move to higher ground if flood warnings are issued for your area, and make sure you have multiple ways to receive weather alerts during the next couple of days through a no weather radio, wireless emergency alerts on your smartphone. This is the rainfall flooding risk from today, and this pink area here is this level 4 out of 4 risk that extends from Wilmington to Raleigh, Greensboro, Danville, Martinsville, Roanoke, Lexington, Virginia, up to Harrisonburg, with a moderate risk extending around that between just to the west of Richmond, to the west of the National Capital Region, up through eastern panhandle of West Virginia, western Maryland, and also including portions of central North Carolina, the Charlotte area, just to the north of Columbia. As we move into Friday, that moderate risk, level 3 out of 4, is going to extend from near Washington, D.C. up through central Pennsylvania, much of upstate New York, Binghamton, Albany, and then up into northern Vermont, where we could again see those considerable flash flooding impacts. Again, tropical storm warnings are still in effect for portions of the coast of North Carolina and South Carolina, from north of Murrells Inlet, including Myrtle Beach, near the Wilmington area, up through Morehead City to Ocracoke Inlet. So we could still see some tropical storm force winds. We could see some gusty winds even a little farther inland that could again cause some tree damage, power outages because of the saturated soil. It's going to make it easier for those trees to come down. Another threat we're seeing that's a little higher today than it was yesterday is the threat of tornadoes. Everywhere here in this brown area is the highest risk for tornadoes today, including the North Carolina coastline, the coastal plain, the I-95 corridor from north of Fayetteville up through Richmond and Petersburg up into southeastern and central Virginia. And we have a tornado watch that's in effect everywhere you see here in yellow through early afternoon. We'll likely see additional watches issued throughout the day, but that includes places like Fayetteville, Raleigh, Williamston, Elizabeth City, up into the Tidewater region of Virginia. Finally, coastal flooding. We could still see some inundation of 1 to 3 feet above ground level from Cape Fear up to Ocracoke Inlet, including the western reaches of the Pamlico Sound and the Pamlico and Neuse rivers that could again exacerbate those flooding problems that are largely being created by the heavy rainfall. So let's wrap things up again with a look at the sort of the key points here. We have heavy rainfall is going to continue to be the big story from portions of the Carolinas, and then potentially result in locally catastrophic flooding impacts as we move up through western Virginia and up into the mid-Atlantic states and the Northeast through Saturday morning. Tropical storm conditions will continue within that tropical storm warning area along the South Carolina and North Carolina coast. Still have that risk of tornadoes today and coastal flooding as well. So we'll be back with you later this afternoon with more on Tropical Storm Debby from here at the National Hurricane Center. You can find information from us at hurricanes.gov. You can get information from your local National Weather Service office at weather.gov. Thanks for joining us. I'm Mike Brennan.